And welcome back to Fully Equipped. J-Wall, serial killer, Uncle Gene. So somehow I ended up in Scottsdale, Arizona without serial killer. He's where the hell are you this week as we record this on a Wednesday, early Wednesday morning?
Early Wednesday morning. I am currently in Trump National, Los Angeles, which is actually in Ranchos Palos Verdes. I'm out on our mobile unit with one of our mobile fitters, Jackson Lynch, doing a little bit of training and introducing him to some of the West Coast guys that I've had relationships with over the years, and doing a little bit of fitting. Going to be up in our Beverly Hills studio and working with Simon Lee over in Beverly Hills, and just taking care of business, man. It's what I do. And Of course, it works out that you're in Scottsdale and I'm not.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Somehow we ended up crossing paths along the way and didn't even see you. Ships in the night, as they would say. Uncle Gene, how we doing?
I'm doing well. I just got back. I went out and visited the USGA at Pinehurst last week.
At their testing center.
Yeah.
Nice.
First time at both Pinehurst and the new USGA facility and museum, World Hall of Fame, I believe, as well. Beautiful, beautiful facility. For those who haven't been to Pinehurst, you can't get there from here. There are no freeways to get to Pinehurst. It is nothing but country roads. So
have you ever driven that at night?
Oh my God, I can only imagine.
I've driven it at night when I covered the U.S. Open, but I've now covered a couple of them. But yeah, that's a scary drive at night when it's just pitch black, middle of the night, and it's just you and your headlights as you're going down through the pines. It's it's an experience.
We have a studio facility in Pine Needles, and I've been out there a few times, and driving a big truck, driving a trailer, having a large vehicle at night, going through that when you don't know where the hell you're going. Oh, buddy, that's an adventure to say the least.
Yeah, it's a wild part of the country in that it doesn't seem that far removed from what it was like 100 or 150 years ago. Like you could imagine it with dirt roads, with that same kind of terrain. The USGA has built a beautiful facility. They are fully committed to, kind of advancing their mission of research and development. And it was interesting meeting with them and discussing, kind of their current needs and then their needs for the future.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a cool facility. And it also is it's Pinehurst. And okay, we're not going to get too deep into this, but I'm curious to get your take. Is Pinehurst the U.S. version of St. Andrews, like the old course? Is it kind of like the destination? If you're going across the pond, you got to go to St. Andrews. You got to go to the old course. If you were gonna try and have a U.S. equivalent, is it Pinehurst?
I think there's too many competitors now. I think that Pebble, from an iconic standpoint, gives you a run for your money. I think that Bandon does. I mean, the thing that really surprised me about Pinehurst that I truly did not know, they have 10 golf courses. And so what do? I go straight to the source. I don't go to golf course architects. I don't go to, the head pro. I go to the bartenders at the bar and ask them what their favorites are. And they all unanimously said number 10 was their favorite, followed by either number 2 or number 4, and they would vary in order. And so those are their top 3 that they recommended. And what was interesting as well is just the amount of golf courses around that area, because there's not a big population base. Like I said, I flew into Charlotte, and it took me 2.5 hours to get to.
There's no direct route to get
no direct route. And then I had to go to Columbia, South Carolina. My son graduated from basic training from the Army. So I drove down there, and that was 3 hours. And I mean, it's, as a Californian and as a Southern Californian, it's really, really enlightening to, travel in a part of a country where it's country roads and you come into these towns and there's 150 people in the town. There's a Dollar Mart, there's a couple churches, and there's a gas station, and then maybe a farm silo or something.
It's Americana, baby. It's Americana.
It's Americana, and it's wild. It's why I love traveling, is just to see the completely different complexion of this country. What's interesting about it, though, is no matter where you go, there are amazing golf courses. And, talking to these guys, they're like, oh, yeah, you got to try out this golf course, Tobacco Farms. And and now with social media, he's showing me the Instagram feed, and everybody's got drones and flyovers. And it's just mind boggling how many cool golf courses there are out in the middle of nowhere that that are sustained, that I'd never heard of. And it, kind of makes you want to get a camper van and spend 6 months just roaming the country, checking these places out.
Do it.
You mentioned Tobacco Road. And Tobacco Road in that area almost has kind of a cult following. And I mean, it's one of those golf courses you talk to guys and they either absolutely love it, or it is like their least favorite place to play ever. And I've been fortunate enough to play it a couple times, and I'm definitely in that category of I love it. I think it is just a cool, unique, different track to play. And
Is it
coming from Arizona,
is it, as they say, a bunch of blind tee shots and a bunch? It looked like it was a course built of sand traps with a little bit of grass interspersed in between, type thing.
yeah, legit. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Saying you have to know where you're going, and in the event that you are going out blind and have never been on property before, it is an adventure, to say the least. And it's definitely an experience if you have the opportunity to play Tobacco Road.
Yeah. It's meant to be like if you were to give a kid a piece of paper and ask him to design his own golf course. that's what Tobacco is. It's just an absolutely wild, rollicking experience. It's so cool.
With better turf conditions.
A little bit better than what the kiddo could come up with. Anyway, before we get into it this week, I want to let you know that Fully Equipped is brought to you by our good friends at Nikon and their Coolshot Pro 2 stabilized rangefinder. Uncle Gene still doesn't have one. The bit will live on. First it was speakers.
The bit will live on.
Now it's rangefinders. If you haven't heard us talk about the Coolshot Pro 2 stabilized before, it is Nikon's high-performance stabilization system that's designed to reduce vibrations of the image in the viewfinder caused by hand movements. The technology provides a more precise reading, giving the user more confidence in their game. Kris talked about it last week. There is a dual locked-on echo technology that has a green-lit circle in the OLED display that emits an audible sound to tell you if you're locked on to the flagstick or whatever target you're trying to shoot, whether that's a bunker or clearing the bunker, short of the green. That's what the audible sound is going to let you know, is that you're locked onto your target, not something that's out in the distance. As I mentioned, the OLED is a very, very crystal clear display that has an auto brightness and high visibility with red graphics that provides the ideal contrast in all lighting conditions. There's also a hyper-read technology that gives the user a fast and accurate measurement response regardless of the distance. And oh, by the way, that's approximately 0.3 seconds. I love just saying that because 0.3 seconds is just insane. Like they're not messing around. You're going to be able to get exactly what you need. And you know what? Something that we didn't point out about the hyper read is, rangefinders are designed to do one thing. That's to give you an accurate number to your target and to keep the pace of play moving. I mean, bottom line, that's what rangefinders are good for, is to keep things moving along. So that is a great function to have on your rangefinder. There's also the incline decline, which, you know, for years was one of those functions that you only saw on like the super high end rangefinders. And I love that Nikon's now bringing it out in their Coolshot Pro 2 stabilized, because this is still a great rangefinder, but it's at a much better price point than some of the other brands out there. So if you've been looking for a rangefinder that gives you that slope adjusted distance, which is if you're hitting to a green that's elevated, this is going to give you the exact number to your target instead of just giving you the number to the pin without taking into account the elevation that you're going to be having to tackle for that approach shot. The actual distance indicator is an external green LED light that confirms if the ID technology mode is on or off. So, you know, if you're playing in tournaments and you're not allowed to use the slope function, this is a great way to let everybody know, hey, look, I'm using my rangefinder, but I'm not using it with the slope adjusted distance. If you want to learn more about Nikon's Coolshot Pro 2 stabilized rangefinder, go check it out on Nikon's website. And if you want to pick one up, you can pick it up on fairwayjockey.com. All right. So
I just want to let it be known that I'm working on my anger management and I'm not having a fit right now. So can we please just note that for the record?
As I'm reading about all the wonderful aspects
I'm very proud of myself for not flipping out.
Golf clap for you, Uncle Gene.
All right, thank you. I'll take it.
So we're into the quieter months of the PGA Tour season, but for the gearheads out there, this is a time of the year where you start to see the new stuff trickle out on tour. And we got a lot of it last week in Napa. I think there are a few of these that I'd like to unpack. So we had Srixon releasing the new ZXI irons. As we talked about last week on the pod, Hideki Matsuyama was testing a new ZXI LS driver at the Tour Championship, and now we have the irons. This is I don't know how many people realize this, but Srixon goes into like a similar cadence as like a Titleist. So this is a Srixon year, whereas like next year would be a Cleveland year. So they alternate. So you're gonna get like a lot of product for like a Cleveland or a Srixon or a Zexio. Zexio is another one where, you know, they kind of alternate the years. So this is a Srixon year, which I know there are a lot of golfers out there, and as we talked about on the pod recently, highly underrated brand. Highly underrated. Yep. And these irons, listen, I love these irons. Kris, I've had you talk about, you know, sing the praises of the Srixon irons, because they are one of those where if somebody asks me like, what should I try? I always tell them like the Srixon, whatever Z-Series irons, you got to try them. It does make me wonder, you know, they are on a 2-year cycle, but the last set was so freaking good. I looked at these when I saw the initial photos from Napa, and it makes me wonder, like, what can you improve? What can you improve on an iron like this? I mean, dispersion maybe, but they're long, they're forgiving, they're accurate. I am genuinely curious. I did poll some golfers out there that currently play these irons, and I asked them, what would you like? And a lot of them said that they would like to see a slightly smaller profile. That was it. Everything else was perfect.
It kind of depends on who you talk to. The sole design is great. The speed that you get off them is great. The auditory feedback, just the consistency and feel off the face. The one thing, selfishly, as a lower launch, lower spin guy, I would love to be able to get a little bit more spin out of them. As I hit the 5 and the 7 versions, I just don't spin the ball enough to physically put them in my bag and put them in play. But every other number is great. I'm really happy with the speed I'm able to get. It's just once I get above that 7 iron, that's where I start to see a little bit of drop in spin and apex height and landing angle that just prevents me from committing to a full set. After the 7 iron, I'm starting to struggle with holding greens. But it's one of our top selling iron SKUs. And
I'd imagine
between the two, the 5 and the 7, I mean, they're awesome. They work for so many players, and they check all the boxes for so many players. I'm really excited to see what the new ones do.
Yeah. Uncle Gene, when we tested these, they were a pretty strong contender. I mean, they were. I think
absolutely.
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
I think they sat somewhere in the middle for spin rate. I'd have to go back and like double check that. But yeah, that's an interesting point, Kris, about spin. And I actually noticed that recently. I tested the new Mizuno, the JPX 925s, the Hot Metal Pros, and I don't think I realized this, even though I had just recently talked to Kris Vachal, who's Mr. Everything over at Mizuno. I don't think I realized that the 7-iron in that set was 28 degrees. And I'm playing Ping I-230s that I've talked about plenty. Ping should be paying me by this point because I talk about these damn irons so much. But my 7-iron is 33 degrees. And I was testing those, and they're longer. But to your point, I think one of the things that I really do like about my I-230s is that they're just like the spin rates are so consistent.
Yep.
And my dispersions are so good that even if the Mizunos were longer, but it's tough to justify like making a switch because I know what I'm getting. Like I don't, the spin rates were on the 48 to 5,000 range for a 7-iron. Like that's starting to get down a little bit lower. Yeah, I see your face. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. But that could work. I mean, there are golfers out there that spin the ball too much. So an
100%.
iron like that could be awesome. But yeah, it's you'd want spin. Like spin is your friend. And I think sometimes we forget about that as golfers because we've been force fed this like distance that you forget that like you still need spin. Like that's how you get consistent carry numbers.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Like some of the newer products, like you were talking about, that are coming out, like the new Apex line from Callaway. So the new Apex line, there's a new iron in that line in the Thai Fusion, and a lot of consumers didn't really know where this new Fusion sat. It's titanium, but it's falling in the Apex line. You look at it compared to the 200 and the 300, and the footprint is smaller. There's less offset, and you don't necessarily associate a more accomplished player's club and titanium in the same sentence. But I mean, from the initial testing that we've had and looking at some of the data coming back, and I mean, even doing some testing myself, I was pleasantly surprised at the playability of the Thai Fusion. Like, spin was higher than what other offerings outside of the Apex Pro Callaway has in that Apex family. And I know there's quite a few iron SKUs in there, so like the differentiation, but I mean, I was seeing 500 plus RPMs of difference between the Thai Fusion and the 200. And I'm going, okay, like this is something different. And rumor around the campfire is that Chip Brewer, the head honcho of Callaway, this was kind of his iron. And he has historically been somebody that has been playing like the CB or the TCB type of club, or X Forge type of club, and the Thai Fusion has found its way into Chip's bag.
Interesting.
And he's a pretty accomplished player.
Yeah.
And so that made me kind of scratch my head, and I had to do a little bit of testing for myself, and I was pleasantly surprised at the launch and spin numbers I was getting out of that, because I mean, after testing the 200, 300, reading the kind of the technology, what's under the hood summary from Callaway, I'm going, again, had the preconceived notion, tungsten, titanium might not be for a little bit better player. And lo and behold, I tested it and was like, oh, wow, okay, this is something different. This is a new category of iron that was showing me something that I'm not seeing out of the other Apex family.
Yeah. But going back to the Srixon, there are some things that's a good point, because as you were talking, I went back to look at spin, and the ZX5 and the ZX7 were basically either right in the middle. Like the ZX7 was kind of middle of the road for spin, but the ZX5 was on the lower end. So if you've got, like, say for example, a Tidal 620 forged at like the top end for spin at 6,900 RPM, and this is all testing that we did with Gene's Golf Laboratory swing robot, and so that was 6,900 RPMs. The ZX7 was at 6,000, so sort of like basically the median. It'd probably be right there in the middle, and then the ZX5 was at 53. So it was actually one of the lower spinning. So to your point, and there are ways that you can, if you like an iron, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kris, I mean, you could fiddle with shaft a little bit and try and gain some spin, but I don't think you're going to gain anything meaningful to the point of taking an iron that's, 5,300 and turning it into 6,000, 6,100, 6,200.
No, I mean, if you're kind of on the cusp, you have an opportunity to tweak with golf ball. You've got an opportunity to tweak with shaft. You can also add or remove a little bit of loft. I mean, no more than 2 degrees one way or the other, because then you start to mess with bounce, and potentially a little bit of offset component comes in there. And I don't like to manipulate loft more than 1 degree one way or another personally, but in some of the irons you can go as much as 2 before it starts to really manipulate or move around turf interaction and bounce characteristics. Yeah, golf ball is an easy spin, scrub or addition. Shaft, you get a little bit with launch and spin. And yeah, then loft is going to be loft, CG placement, material, grooves, all of that's going to be kind of contributors to adding or subtracting spin.
Yeah. Well, and I could add to that, if you don't know your launch monitor numbers, I've been doing a lot of testing with the Foresight Quad Max on this exact issue, going from -6 to +2 on attack angle, and kind of creating a matrix of that in relation to club head speed. And it's really fascinating, because you really need to know where you sit on the matrix from a club head speed and an attack angle standpoint before you can even start to guess or get direction as to where you want to go from a launch and spin standpoint. And it ultimately comes down to kind of 2 factors. One is a distance that you're looking for, and then the second is your descent angle. And as Kris was talking about earlier, excuse me, descent angle, and that's the angle from the apex coming down to the green, ideally the green, not the rough. But as it comes down to the green, you want an angle somewhere between 45 and 50. And that angle allows the ball to stop and hold. If it's flatter, it's going to run through. If it's steeper, you're probably going to bite that ball back a bit. And so where you are, if you're at 60 miles an hour club head speed, you might want to actually play. We've seen in this testing, you actually might want to be closer to 0 or -2 and have as much loft as possible to get the ball up in the air to get that descent angle. If you are at 100 miles an hour, you need to be back -4, -6, which is really steep, to get a low launch, and you'll get enough spin because of the ball velocity to ensure that you get that proper descent angle. But descent angle and carry distance are really critical, and the only way to really understand those numbers is to get on a launch monitor, to get measured, and then get with a fitter like Kris, who can show you what those numbers mean, and then show you products that can optimize your current swing to get you to that 45, 50 descent angle, and ideally your targeted distance that you want.
There we go. All it took was me just kind of rambling on about tricks on Z-Series irons to get. I mean, I think all of that's really great intel, in all seriousness, because that's one of the questions that I get a lot is, hey, I like this iron. What can I do? My numbers aren't exactly where I need them to be. And I think Kris, like, you nailed it. Like, there are some components that you can adjust. You can adjust head, you can adjust shaft. Golf ball's another. But yes, I think bottom line, what Gene mentioned, like, get with a fitter, and make sure that you have somebody who's holding your hand during the process, so that you know what you're getting and what you're doing before you mangle a good set of irons. I've heard people talk about that before. Like, hey man, I adjusted these irons, like I had them done like 3 or 4 degrees, and now they're not playing like they used to. I was trying to get them to gap well with, you know, whatever they have at the top of a set, and I'm like, oh gosh, yep, killed them. Yep. DOA.
Once you bend them that much, there's not a lot of recovery from there.
I was shocked. And I won't mention the name of the person, but I was shocked that a club builder would have even done that for them.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
But Kris, sometimes you can only caution so much, and if the player or the client is persistent and accepts the risk, and you do it, and they hate it, it's like, I tried to tell you, but yeah.
What's definitely interesting to me in looking at this is it's pretty easy on the extremes. So if you're at 60, 65, 70 miles an hour, you want to kind of play the ball a little bit more neutral in your stance, just to get the ball up in the air, or you're in this conundrum because you need a stronger iron to get distance, but at the same time, you need launch and spin. So, you almost have to play it forward. And when you're on the opposite end, on the higher speed, you really want to play the ball back and really want to de-loft it so that you get your low launching, high spinning, and then you get your descent angle. Where it's interesting is between 80 and 90 miles an hour, which the majority of the people in the bell curve sit, you can kind of skin a cat multiple ways. You can pick or dig based on where your attack angle is. And then, to Kris's point, then you can mix or match and find, okay, is distance important? Is descent angle critical? And start playing with your swing style and seeing how the equipment can best optimize it. So when you're on the edges, you're almost a little bit more limited in what your selection is, but when you're in the middle, you can definitely have a lot more options and tools in your kit to be able to. Sorry, Coach, just is trying to throw me off my game, but I'm not gonna let him.
I was going to say he mentioned cats. Cats and dogs are a very popular topic right now.
Damn you, Coach. Stop sending text messages in the middle of my monologues. I'm too simple. I don't have the brain to be able to read and talk at the same time. All right.
Now you got to give the context.
If nobody understands the context, then they probably don't watch television or they're not on social media.
That's fair.
What if that's the case? How did they find this podcast is what I want to know.
Yeah. All we were talking about is eating cats and dogs.
I was going to ask Kris if it was raining cats and dogs. Show. Yeah.
So I had to step into it by, of course, using a skinning a cat analogy.
I was trying not to laugh when he used the skin a cat reference, but yeah. Coach on it. All right.
Coach just owned me and just completely. He's like one of those drill sergeants trying to get you to step out of line. Like, what can I do? What can I do to get him to slip? Well played, Coach. Well played.
Yeah, that was one of those. Got him.
Did we lose? We lost
and
serial
we
killer?
We lost Kris. Oh, there he is.
Oh, he's back. He's back. I should probably mention he's on property at a Trump golf course.
I am. Yeah, the Secret Service probably just cut me off. Yeah. If Big Brother's listening,
let's keep it moving. We got a few more things to get to. Gene, do you want to finish your thought before I keep rolling?
I don't even know what my thought
okay,
was.
great.
We're just
Moving
gonna
on.
let that
All right,
go.
moving on. Actually, before I get into the next topic, because it is a topic about grips, feels like a good opportunity to let you know that Fully Equipped is brought to you by our good friends at Golf Pride and the reverse taper putter grip. It's the most crucial split second in golf. You can't worry about if the ball is going in the hole or not. If you haven't worried about what's happening at impact, that's what led Golf Pride to design a grip to ensure you're set up to succeed in that split second, the very moment where the putt is decided. With the reverse taper technology, it ensures that you have a more consistently square face at impact, a grip that's most impactful during the most impactful split second in golf. And that's what you're getting with reverse taper. It has a soft feel with an enhanced tacky texture. And oh, by the way, the reverse taper design, which is a slim upper hand and a larger lower hand that they worked on for years, which still to me is mind-blowing. When I was actually out on tour earlier this year at Bay Hill, and I asked their reps, I'm like, man, this grip looks pretty cool. How long has this been in development for? And they're like, oh yeah, like 2, 3, 4 years. And they were kind of going back and forth, like, yeah, like 4 years. Which is just, again, that's crazy. 4 years to design a grip. But it goes to show you, I mean, Golf Pride is number one in the marketplace. Everybody wants to be Golf Pride. And they design products with a lot of feedback, not just from tour golfers, which is what we talk about a lot on this podcast, but from regular golfers as well, because that's ultimately who's going to be buying this grip. It's golfers that are looking to get a more consistently square face and impact, and that's what you're going to be getting with that slim upper hand and the larger lower hand. There's also a dimple pattern throughout that's going to help support traction, and the technology stabilizes both hands for that square putter face and impact. And they actually did testing against parallel style putter grips that showed that the reverse taper design was superior to that parallel design that you see a lot on tour and at the grassroots level. If you want to learn more about the reverse taper design, go check it out on golfpride.com. Own the moment of impact. Own the putt. Thanks again to Golf Pride for being a loyal sponsor of the podcast. All right, a couple more things that we saw on tour last week. Odyssey. Kris and I and Uncle Gene wasn't here, but we discussed zero torque putters. You've got the Axis ones, you've got the Labs. Now you got Odyssey, and this is pretty. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say it's surprising, but they have the new AI one out that is a zero torque. It's the square to square is what they're calling it. So I will stand by it. I wrote a story on it last week for golf.com. It is the hottest trend on tour. It's not going away. Not going away. And
Nope.
It's going to continue to become a larger topic in the industry. I think this is the new one. We've seen mallets blow up. We've seen all kinds of different designs. We've seen Spider make a comeback. This is it. This is going to be the hot trend on tour for 25. Zero torque. You're going to hear that word a lot. You're going to get tired of it, but I just wanted to point that out. Odyssey is jumping in. I would imagine that others are going to be doing the same thing. It's coming.
I've said for quite a while, when you know that you're doing something right, is when other OEMs start to come out with comparable and competitive designs to what it is that you're doing. And like we talked about last week, J-Wall, I mean, Odyssey had the toe-up putters. Adele has done the torque-balanced putters. Yep. And the success that we've seen with Lab, and I mean, that particular manufacturer just catching fire.
Yeah, PXG with the Allen putter too, which is just recently
Axis
came out.
one. No surprise to see a company as large as Odyssey with their number one putter in golf. Coming out with more of a torque balanced and no rotation design. I'm curious to see the performance of this, and if it takes off like we saw with the popularity of the Jailbird and the higher balance point counterbalance type putters. I'm wondering, with so many different options, is Lab still going to stay on top? Is Odyssey going to gain some traction and start to pull some of those players away? And I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. There's one more that I want to kick around, but you know what? Why don't we just save that one for the Inside Golf segment? We've been doing this for a couple weeks now. If you aren't subscribed to Inside Golf, make sure you get on that. Go to golf.com/subscription. It's $39.99 a year. It comes with a lot of goodies, a lot of access to content. There's archived instruction content from golf's top instructors and players. You get a $20 credit to spend for a future Fairway Jockey purchase. There's a year of Golf Magazine, so you can read all the fun stuff in print form, which I still get a newspaper, man. So I still like getting like a physical magazine. I still like getting like the physical products that you can flip through. I guess I'm just old school like that. Free dozen tricks on golf balls, and also access to the Golf Magazine archives, which I'm going to keep banging that drum. It's the best value. Like, that's the reason that you should pay $40 a year. Not for the $20 credit to Fairway Jockey, which is nice, or the free dozen tricks on golf balls, but the ability to get access to the archives, which is just so awesome. And we're going to save this topic. So each week we're going to be doing like 5 to 10 minutes where we're going to kick around a topic for Inside Golf members. And we're going to save one of these products that came out on tour this year or this week at Napa. We're going to save that for the conversation. Also was going to bring up PXG golf balls, but I'm going to save that because guess what? We've got a guy who knows a bit about PXG product. I'm going to be talking to PXG Senior Director of R&D, Mike Nicolette. Mike Nicolette is a damn good designer, but he is a stick. And we had a chance to get into all kinds of products, PXG, especially their Black Ops irons. They've got a cool challenge going on right now that we had a chance to discuss. So hang around for that interview, and we're also going to be discussing their new Tour and Tour X golf balls. And I feel like now is a good opportunity to get into that interview. So let's hop into the interview that I just did with Mike Nicolette from PXG. Enjoy it. All right, Nico, how are you doing?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've gotten to catch up in person. You and I go way back to like even before PXG with your ping days. So it's always fun to chat about gear in person with you.
Yeah.
Got a lot to get into, but I want to know how much golf are you playing these days?
Oh, yeah. I don't play a lot of golf.
Okay.
But I love to practice. So
every day?
Not every day. No, I'm like a weekend guy. So, and especially now in the summertime, you know how hot it is here. I meet buddies down at the range at the TPC. We usually hook up about 6:30, and then we'll practice till 8:30 or 9 and kind of call it a day.
Yeah.
But as far as playing golf, I don't think I played golf for about 2 months now. And
it's been a little bit hot here.
It's hot, but it's not that.
It's a dry heat, right?
Yeah. The weather's about to get good. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We'll look forward. It's going to be great. And right now, not the best.
The fall weather in Arizona.
I can't wait.
Yeah, is the best.
Yeah.
I wanna briefly touch on your tour career.
Yeah.
What was it like during your heyday out on the PGA Tour? Because you played. This is one of the cool things because people always ask me. Like they see the guys who design the golf clubs and they always wonder who's good?
Yeah.
Who's good out there? And I was all because they see Marty Jertson.
Oh, Marty's amazing.
Marty's amazing. But I was bringing your name up. I was like, there's not too many guys that have won a PGA Tour event. But what was it like back in the heyday playing the tour?
You sure you want to ask this question?
Of course I do.
Because I mean to tell you, like today's golf and whenever I was trying to make a living, it's two different worlds. I mean, the money that's thrown around at tour players today, you don't even have to be any good and you're so wealthy, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But back in my day, that was not the case. When I was playing on the tour, I thought it was funny because, when you went to get range balls, you walked out, it was $2 a bag. Okay. There were no free range balls when you went out to do your practice, right? So just little things like that if you go back in time, it's two different worlds. So I loved it. You had to really earn your way there. You had to be good to continue to play. Obviously, same thing today with today's tour players. And listen, today's tour players are phenomenal.
Yeah,
these guys, wow, they're all good. And again, if we relate that back to when I was trying to play, there were probably 30 guys that were really good. And everybody else knew, I was one of those other guys, you just knew you weren't that good. I was very fortunate to have one really nice week in my career and ended up winning a major event, not a major, but a major tour event, the Bay Hill Invitational. And for me, the most special part of that is I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Arnold Palmer is my hero.
Yeah.
So from a golfing standpoint, to win his event and have him, hand the trophy over to, I can't even put into words what that meant at that point in time. It was just phenomenal. If I was going to pick one tour event other than a U.S. Open or a Masters to win, it would have been the Bay Hill Invitational. So really special for me to do that. But different day and age now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like the night before the final round of Bay Hill?
I'm going to be honest with you. It was fine for me because I actually had a 6-stroke lead starting the final round. In my mind, you got to be fairly confident. In my mind, I was like,
right.
Even if I have a bad day, I'm probably going to shoot even par. So somebody's going to have to shoot 6 under to catch me.
Yeah.
And that probably isn't going to happen. So if I just play my game, it's probably going to work out good.
Yeah.
But I'll give you the last round in a nutshell. It's pretty crazy. So I'm paired with Greg Norman and Seve Ballesteros. So right away, I'm way out of my league. The first tee jitters were there.
Yeah.
So we kind of start the round, and with a 6-stroke lead, after 6 holes, Greg caught me. Seve kind of went south in a hurry, so he didn't have his best day that day. But Greg and I were tied, so it was like I squandered 6 strokes in 6 holes. And but after 12 holes, I had a 5-stroke lead again. So, okay, the confidence is flowing. Here we go. And then after 18 holes, we were tied again. So
what a roller coaster of emotions.
6-stroke lead and a 5-stroke lead, all in the same round.
A roller coaster of emotions. But to win, like you said, Western Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah.
To win the tournament that you wanted to win, to have Arnold Palmer hand you the trophy, to go head to head against Greg Norman in a playoff to win it. I mean, you pretty much check up. Where does that rank in terms of career highlights? It's got to be.
Well, that's the number one thing, right?
It's got to be it. Like the number one right there.
As far as tournament golf, that's my number one highlight.
Yeah.
So, to be on the tee with Greg Norman, I'm going to tell you, it's intimidating because he was the best driver of the golf ball. Probably had one of the best short games ever. He hit it about 50 yards past me.
I was just about to ask you how.
Very long hitter, and I was not.
Yeah.
And I got to relate one more story. This is great.
Yeah.
So first tee, we all tee off, final round, and Seve kind of hooked his ball, and I hit a nice tee shot. Greg hit a nice tee shot, same line. I don't know what happened. My ball must have hit a sprinkler or something, because as we went out to our, get to play our second shot, there was a short ball and there was one probably about 45 yards, past. Well, Greg just walked right past the first ball, and I had no issue with that. My caddy and I stopped there, and we're kind of getting a yardage, and I looked down and it's not my ball. and I was like, hey, Greg, are you playing? I think it was a Strat or something. Right. Are you playing? He goes, yes. I'm like, well, this is you back here. That never happened again. So all I know, my ball must have hit a sprinkler and just, shot forward.
You're already in his head.
Oh, my Lord.
Living rent-free in his head on the first hole.
Anyway, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, those were days past. They were good days.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have good days right now, too.
Yeah.
So love it.
What was the equipment scene like out on the PGA Tour at that time? I mean, because you've been around long enough. You know what it's like nowadays. What was it like during your heyday?
So there was no tour trailers, obviously, right? You had a tour rep.
No tour trailers.
No tour trailers, right? You had a tour rep. Our rep, his name was Gary Hart, and there was another gentleman who actually helped me immensely with my golf game. His name was Paul Obermeyer. They were the reps for Ping. And if I'm not mistaken, there was, I want to say Luke Gibson had like a little mobile trailer that he would drag around to the tour event. Like if you wanted to change grips or something, you could, he worked on your clubs.
Yep.
But it was one guy who worked on everybody's clubs. So that was a little bit of the equipment scene as far as like is the fitting end of things. Like today, the guys are going out with the drivers, and I mean, it's to the 9th degree. It's all the frequencies, the lofts, the weighting. It's confusing. So a good friend of mine who used to play on the tour, but then lost his car. His name was Harry Taylor. Harry started to become a rep with TaylorMade, right? So he's trying to get drivers into guys' hands, and this is back in the day, when you still used wood clubs, right? So metal woods were fairly new, and some of the guys were early adopters, and some people like myself, I played a wood for quite a while actually. But Harry would come out, and this was a fitting. Hey, Nickel, what loft do you think you might need? I don't know. My wooden driver's like 11 degrees. And he goes, okay, here's a 10.5. Do you play a stiff or an X? I said, I use an X right now. He goes, okay, here you go. Let me know how it works. That was a fitting. All right. So
leaving you to your own devices at that point.
Oh my gosh. Things have changed.
What could go wrong leaving a Tour Pro with like a whole bunch of different gear?
Oh my Lord. But with all the things we have today with all the TrackMan, seeing the numbers, every little detail is just so scrutinized with regards to equipment, almost to a fault. I seriously believe that with the guys today, find some clubs that you like, make sure they're fit properly. If you can hit all the shots that you need to hit and you're confident that it's correct, quit looking at equipment while you're trying to play.
Yep.
Play the rest of your year with the stuff that you have, because coming from an equipment guy, I shouldn't say this. There's no magic in the clubs. The magic comes from the practice and having the right mechanics. Being fit correctly is huge.
Yep.
If you're not fit correctly, you are going to be up against, the 8 ball, so to speak, right away. So you're going to fight your equipment. But once you're fit correctly, you need to get the thoughts out of your mind that if a shot goes astray, oh, is the weighting right on this? Should I change No, it was you.
Yep.
They hate to hear that, but I mean, truth is truth, buddy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's usually the Indian and not the arrow.
It's almost always the Indian and not the arrow when it comes to that level, because the guys today, they are so good. I mean, swings are virtually perfect. I mean, they're athletes. When I was there, you didn't have super athletes. We had some guys that were in pretty good shape, like a Mac O'Grady. Mac was a really good athlete. But today, virtually everybody's an athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to when you were finishing up your tour career. Some guys, they, just kind of go off into retirement. Some went into the booth. You ended up becoming a club designer.
Yeah.
How did you kind of walk me through that path? Like, how did you did you always want to design golf clubs? Like, where did that come from?
I was always a little bit of a tinkerer.
Okay.
With regards to golf equipment. So, I'm one of
You're
those
going
guys.
against everything
I know.
you're saying.
I'm like, let me put a little. I used to know this guy who had a shop, so I'd go in and I'd grind the clubs. Well, I played ping clubs, but I never really liked that big, high, pointy toe. So the first thing I'd do when I got a new set of clubs is I'd grind some of that toe off so they looked a little more traditional. But I loved the look of the offset, and I loved how they performed, as far as how that ball would fly. And when I mishit shots, they were definitely more forgiving than some of the blades I was trying to play at that time. So for me, it's all about trying to get that ball from point A to point B. And if you can do it consistently, you can start to shoot low scores. So the ping clubs back in the day really helped me.
Yeah.
I made the mistake as a tour player to start to try to get better by changing and overhauling my golf swing. My golf swing was good enough. I should have learned how to manage my game a little bit better on the golf course. In other words, work a little harder on your putting, right? Work a little harder on your short game. Make sure that you're chipping the ball 3 feet instead of 5 feet, because all those little things start to add up. At the end of the week, one stroke means a lot. John, you know this, right? It's you either miss a cut or make a cut,
Yep.
And when it comes down to it, we can watch tour events like weekly, and the last 3 or 4 holes, when you're watching the leaders, somebody makes a 5-footer and somebody misses a 5-footer. And that's the deciding factor on whether you're the winner or the second place finisher. So it's huge. And anyway, I made a mistake of trying to work on my golf swing. My golf game went south, and I came west. So funny stuff. Here's one of the things, and you just said it. When you're a professional athlete and you're no longer doing your sport, you know what you're qualified to do? Nothing.
Yep.
Because all you focused on was your sport. So you know zero about the business world. And, so I was in a quandary, and you talk about people retiring back in the day and then just going off to I couldn't do that because I had no money. So
I was saying the tour back when you were playing is a lot different, where you couldn't just be like, well, hey, look, I made all these millions of dollars. Oh, I'm just going to go and retire. And
different day. So anyway, I needed to get a job. And I reached out to some of the manufacturers that I represented when I was playing on the tour, Ping being one of them. And they actually ended up hiring me, and I was slated to get a role as one of their sales reps. When a territory came open, then I would go out in the field. Because I thought, okay, I don't know a lot about the business world, but I know a little bit about golf equipment. I'm typically pretty good at, communicating with people. And I thought I could represent the company fairly well. But Ping had a policy that to become a sales rep for them, you had to work inside for 2 years. So they put you through all the different disciplines in the company. So, I started in club fitting. So I worked there for about 6 months. And, basically the path at that company would be that, you're going to spend a month over in iron assembly. You're going to spend a month over in wood assembly, the whole 9 yards. So you learned the company inside and out. You learned the culture of the company. Yeah. And when they felt confident that you could represent them well, they would put you out into the field to do just that. So I was there, on that training mission. And it just so turned out that Alan Solheim, one of Karsten's sons, he had a guy that worked for him as an executive assistant. A guy's name was Lee McCormack. Lee ended up taking a territory in Northern California, so a slot was open, and Alan asked me to come over to be his executive assistant. I reluctantly agreed to do that because it entailed some things that I wasn't comfortable doing. Number one was there was a professional athlete program there, and you were in charge of dealing with all of the high-level athletes if they wanted to buy Ping golf equipment.
Right.
And I told Alan at first, I said, listen, I said, I'm not your guy. I said, because I don't watch basketball, football, baseball, or hockey. I said, I never did, and I probably never will. I don't know who the guys are, so I don't want to put Ping in a bad light, not being ignorant of all these amazing athletes. And he goes, you'll be perfect for the job because you won't be starstruck. I was like,
I was going to say, yeah, you are perfect for that gig.
So I have to go in just real quick to this. You'll love this, but the day that I got fired was actually the day that my path in engineering started. So Karsten used to come right past my desk pretty much every day on his way out to the engineering area. Well, one day he said, hey, why don't you walk with me? I want to show you some different things in the plant. So off we went, and we ended up in one area that was our weld shop. Now, back in the day, Jonathan, if you ordered a set of Ping clubs, it was a 16-week wait to get your set. That's how popular they were. So you can imagine, like 4 months. Let me see. I'm ordering in January.
It's like COVID turnaround.
It was like crazy, right? Anyway, that's how popular they were. So we're going through the plant. We end up in this weld shop, and there's this guy doing these little spot welds on clubs, fixing imperfections and porosity from the casting process. And Karsten was very upset that he was doing that. Because he thought the club should be over in our grinding area, getting everything ready to go, shipped out because we have so many customers waiting. Anyway, he kind of yelled at this guy for what he was doing. Yeah. And we get back to my desk, and he was like, "Oh, that was really a good day." He said, "So let's do this again tomorrow. And I said, okay, that'll be fine. I said, but I got a question for you. I said, you were kind of upset with the guy, that was fixing all the imperfections. And yeah. And I said, well, I thought he was doing the right thing. And he goes, well, listen, those little imperfections don't affect performance at all. And I said, okay, I get it. I said, but let me say this. I haven't been here very long. I said, but on the outside, ping is synonymous with two things, performance and quality. And I said, part of the quality of any new set of golf clubs is the aesthetic value, right? You want something looking really brand new. So I said, I thought he was doing the right thing. And he goes, you're not hearing me. It doesn't affect performance. And we got customers waiting. We need to get that product out to the customers. I said, okay. I said, let me put it to you another way. I said, since I've been here, I noticed that all the Solheims like to drive BMWs. I said, now, just like Ping golf equipment, it's synonymous with performance and quality. I said, how would you like to go pick up your brand new BMW and right across the hood is a giant key scratch? I said, now that doesn't affect performance at all, does it? And he got so upset with me. He just turned and first of all, he goes, with thinking like that, son, we don't need you around here. And right. So I'm like, okay, turned around, marched down the hall and slams the door. On the way out back to his office, Alan comes out of his office. He goes, what just happened? And I said, well, your dad just fired me. And okay, this is a long story, but
yeah, no, it's a great story though.
So I get a phone call. I'm packing my desk up because I just got fired, right? I get a phone call. It's an in-house call. I see it's Karsten. I pick up. What are you doing for lunch? I said, well, I'm probably having it at home since you just, told me to get out of here. And he goes, listen, two men can disagree and still work at the same company. Yeah. Let's have lunch. Okay. So we went to lunch. Well, from that day forward, I had lunch with Karsten multiple times a week.
Wow.
And he just kind of took me under his wing, brought me up to the engineering department, started to show me all the physics involved with the collision of a golf ball and a club head. And that's where it started for me. So I'm not a degreed engineer, but I got a lot of knowledge through apprenticeship from, one of the great club designers of our time.
That is such a cool story.
So that's how it started.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's such a cool story because it goes to show that, nowadays I think people look at the club designers and their engineering degrees and their backgrounds, and it goes to show you that you don't always need that. Sometimes you just need that person who has the knowledge to kind of pass that down. And you already had the passion for it. You talked about being a tinkerer.
Oh yeah.
It was in your blood. Like you were almost like made to be a club designer because you had that passion for the clubs themselves. But again, it goes to show you the importance of having people to pass down that knowledge. Because eventually, we all pass on. And, you want to make sure that you're passing along that knowledge to the next generation, the people that are going to be able to use it.
100%, So I'm very grateful to that. And I had a really nice career with Ping, 23 years worth. Yep. And, but PXG, here we are.
Yeah.
That's another crazy story how that one started.
I want to, can we discuss this?
Absolutely.
Because you went from being one of the guys over at Ping to going to PXG, and I've been in the industry for a minute. I remember when it happened, and it threw me for a loop because PXG was the new kid on the block. Here they are, and they're making a very serious, like, we're planting our flag. We're not here to just be a name. Like, we want to make good golf clubs, and we're going to bring in some of the best designers. How did you end up at PXG?
Well, this is life. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had known Bob Parsons for a year and a half to 2 years, somewhere in that time frame. And the way I met Bob was strictly by accident. So again, we were talking earlier, like, I don't get out much. I don't know a lot of really important people.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Bob. I had no idea who he was. But a friend of mine, and you might know him, Tom Kalinowski. So a friend of mine was a member at Whisper Rock. It was Friday afternoon, and he called me, he goes, hey, you want to play? And I'm like, yeah. So I shut things down at the office, and up to Whisper Rock I went. And we hit a few balls to loosen up. And on our way to the first tee, he sees a guy just all by himself hitting balls out there. And he just yells over. He goes, "Hey, Bob, do you want to play 9?" And that's how I met Bob. Oh, okay, now, if I don't go up that day, I never meet Bob Parsons. There probably is no PXG.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
We go out. We play 9 holes of golf. You've met Bob.
Oh, played golf with him. Just the two of us for.
Maybe the most fun human being on the face of the earth, right? I mean, we laughed and told stories. It was like the best 2.5 hours of golf that I may have ever had. Now, Bob, TK, Tom Callahan, was helping Bob with his swing a little bit. So, during the round, we're hitting balls and shots. And dude, Bob he's pretty good, but, he's not that good, right?
Yeah.
He's not the guy that should be playing the Miura iron that's about that big, right?
But he wants to.
But he was.
He wants to.
And anyway, so he's like, "Here, try my club." And I set it down. I go, "Bob, I'm not even qualified to hit this thing." And I said, "What's the loft on that?" Because he handed me like an 8-iron. Yeah. And he has it bent so strong, it looks like a 5-iron living down there. Anyway, so that's how I met Bob. We played golf multiple times over the next, year and a half, 2 years. And one day he just called me out of the blue. I was working at Ping, and he goes, "Hey," he said, because I thought he was going to just invite me to play golf again.
Yeah.
He goes, "Hey, I have something you might be interested in." I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, "Well, let's just meet, and I'll tell you about it."
Yeah.
Okay, so went over, met him at his, he was actually at the Harley dealership, right? So I met him at the Harley dealership, and we had a meeting, and he kind of was like, "Yeah," he says, "I'm about to buy this golf course, the Golf Club of Scottsdale at the time."
Yep.
And he said, "I think it would be pretty cool if we did this really nice high-end set of golf equipment." And I was like, "So do you want Ping to design these?" Or, that kind of a thing. He goes, "No." He said, I want to start a research center. That's how this all started. He said, "Mike," he said, I've tried every golf club in the marketplace, every shaft combination. I've done this, that." He goes, "They're all the same." He goes, "But there has to be something better. There just has to be." And he said, "So I think I want to, go down that road." I don't know about even starting a company at that point. To him, he just wanted to research and see if there was actually something better. So and we chatted back and forth. Anyway, I said, "Listen," I said, "if you want to start a research center, I'm not your guy." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Bob, you've known me for a while now, and you know that I know who I am and I know who I'm not."
Yep.
Okay. I said, "I'm not a degreed engineer. I don't have any marketing skills." I said, "I'm a pretty good golfer and I'm a really good club designer, but it ends right there. If you're serious about trying to do this research center and then potentially make a company, I'm not your guy. But I know your guy." And he said, "Who's that?" And I said, "It's my boss." He goes, "Wait a minute." He goes, "You want to bring your boss over here?" And I said, "Well, my boss is my best friend." I said, "Let me tell you about my boss. He is a degreed engineer. He does have a marketing degree, a master's in business."
Brad Schweiger.
Not a marketing degree, but he's got a master's in business. I said, "He's been running all of the hard goods, soft good endeavors over at Ping for the last 13 years. And I said, I personally think Brad has the best insight into the industry of anybody I've ever met. So he kind of sees where the market is and where it's going. So if you want somebody to do this, he's your guy."
Yeah.
So, and this is Brad Schweigert I'm talking about. So, anyway, he goes, "Well, go see if Brad's interested," So one thing led to another. He was not really interested.
Yeah.
But some things were happening at Ping at the time that he was not 100% comfortable with. So I still remember we went to lunch one day. We were at a Jersey Mike's, right? And we're chatting about the potential of, because we always wanted to try to do your own thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
that's a dream for a lot of people. Yeah.
So he said, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "Let's call Bob." He said, "If he answers the phone, I'll go meet with him. If he doesn't answer the phone, we'll just go back to work." And he said, "The reason I'm saying that," he goes, "Look, Bob is a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
He said he might lose interest in this in 6 months. And I don't want to throw my whole career away for a 6-month endeavor.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how it kind of started. Anyway, I said, okay. So I pulled Bob's number up, right? And it rings, and he picks up, first ring. Hey, Mike, how you doing? And, hey, Bob, I'm sitting here with Brad. And, oh, he goes, that's amazing. He goes, just made my day, you know? And he goes, oh, we got to meet. You know?
Yeah.
So we set a meeting up. Brad and Bob hit it off, you know, like two peas in a pod. And Bob's a very good salesman, by the way. And we decided to go a different path and try something new. And here we are. And it's been amazing.
What's it like, or what was it like to go somewhere where there were no time or budget constraints?
It's just a different mentality. Mm-hmm. And Bob asked me that in our initial meeting. He said, look, what do you think holds companies back from actually making something that's dramatically better? And I said, well, part of it is cost. I said, because a consumer's only willing to pay a certain amount. And the way clubs are sold today, most of it's in a big box, retail space. And the retailers they know their business inside and out. They know who their customers are. So they know that they can sell clubs at a certain price.
Right.
So as a designer, you're limited right there on, I can't go above that. Mm-hmm. And there may be some technology, some materials out there, some different manufacturing techniques that you could actually enhance the performance of a product, but it would be price prohibitive.
Yep.
Right. And anyway, when we started, it was like, hey, we're going to try to do this with irons. And he gave us a set of marching orders, which, have you heard these?
No.
So he said, listen, guys, he said, because we had a 1-year non-compete. So we sat out. The 1 year was up, and it was like, hey, the honeymoon's over. So here we go. I want you guys to focus on irons, he said, and I want something that looks like a blade, but is more forgiving than a cavity back. So we're taking notes. We're like, okay. And I guess I want something that goes further than any other golf club in the marketplace, but you can't make the loft stronger. Okay. It has to feel better than any club I have ever hit. Okay. Anything else? Yes. It needs to look different than every other golf club in the marketplace. So there is no mistaking what it is. Is that it? He goes, yeah, I think that's enough.
Yeah,
he said, so let's get to work, So off we went, and we had some ideas up our sleeve, and we started developing things. And so from the cost and time constraint is amazing, because our technology was very expensive to do, to manufacture, and that was reflected in the price, So we were very, very expensive coming to market. And, we're still fairly expensive, but it's not nearly as what it was before, because, we found different ways or better ways and worked with our suppliers to bring costs down, but not give up any performance at all.
Yeah.
And, those savings then go obviously over to the consumer.
What's changed the most from when you started at PXG to where you are now?
I'm really busy. Yeah. I don't mind being busy. We just talked about that too, right? So it's part of life, right? So you're just, it's your job, and I love what I do, but it's a lot of time consumption. And early on, it was like crazy busy. It was funny. I remember I was complaining to Bob about a year in, 2 years into this deal, and I'm like, hey, I said, I'm working like, 12 to 15 hour days some days. And I said, I don't know if I signed up for that. And he goes, you're telling me you work in 12-hour days? And I said, yeah. And he said, He said, well, I wouldn't be complaining if I were you. Sounds like you're only working half days. Because in his mind, 24 hours is where you should be working. But anyway, I can see why Bob became as successful as he did and is. It's because he's driven. And it's funny, we did a commercial once, and the name of the commercial was Relentless. Mm-hmm. And he is relentless. He's always pushing to the next level to find out, what can we do to make it better? What can we do to make it faster?
Yeah.
Right? how can we improve the performance? Is there new materials? Is there a new? He's always pushing you.
Yeah.
It's funny. We do a line of milled wedges, and maybe we can talk about those in a little bit. But that milling, it takes time to do that, right? So when we first started, we were going to do a line of milled wedges. So we had, we hired a machinist and someone who could program, so I could do CAD files, and you get those files down to the programmer. Well, the first wedge we were going to do, Bob was all excited about it, and he's like, well, how long is that going to take? And I said, probably going to be 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And he goes, what? Like, what? And I'm like, well, look, they got to program it. That's going to take probably 4 or 5 days to program it. Then you got to make all the fixturing. That takes another 4 or 5 days to do that. Then you actually machine the club. There's machine time. He goes, completely unacceptable, brother. He said, that is unacceptable. And he said, you need to dig in and work with that machinist and figure out a better way. Today, okay, if you came into my office, John, and you said, hey, Mike, can you whip a wedge up for me? I like the shape on that one, but can you add a little bounce on? I could do it right there in the CAD. It would take about 15 minutes. Yeah, here we go. Do you like that? Yeah, I love it. Okay. I make some files. I send it to my machinist. It takes him about 4 hours to program it. You will have the wedge on your desk tomorrow morning.
Wow.
We went from weeks and potentially a month to overnight. And that was all because of Bob pushing, but the skill levels could be enhanced all along the way. So, I was able to create some better CAD files. Our machinist was able to do the programming, much faster, much more efficiently, created templates that, you could bring a part in and it would just grab the template and, change a few numbers, and pow, you had your new program. And it was pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How involved is Bob in the day-to-day? You mentioned just Brad's question about like he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
How interested is he going to be in this venture in 6 months from now? It could just be something where, it's a fleeting thought, but how involved is he?
No, he's so committed to the business, and he loves golf. I mean, that's why I love Bob so much. I love golf. You love golf, and golf is a quest. Nobody ever has it. Scheffler has it right now, right? But nobody really ever has it for an extended period of time, It's like at our level, I'll play a good round of golf, but, a week later, it's gone. Now you're searching again, right? But Bob's passion for the game is unwavering. He loves golf. He's always trying to get better. And as far as his company is concerned and how much time he spent there, John, when we first started, it's every day. He came into the office every day, and, his office was from here to your sound booth, away from us. So it was, hey, Mike, what do you got cooking? I have an idea. One time I still recall, it was like a Sunday evening. I get a call. It's kind of late in the evening. Hey, Mike, I got an idea. I'm like, hang on a minute. So you get your pad out. Yeah. What do you got? Well, what if we did this and this? Yeah. Okay. He goes, you got it? I said, yeah, that's awesome. I think that'd be good. All right. Next morning, right? Because I'm an early bird.
Right.
In the office at 6 a.m., right? I roll in. I'm sitting down, just logging in, right? Phone rings. Bob, yeah. Where are we on that? I said, I just got here. You got to give me a few hours, He goes, all right. He goes, I'm anxious, but that's who he is. His passion is like, it's unwavering.
I want to get into your current iron lineup.
Yeah.
Because this is your bread and butter. And if you go on PXG's website and you scroll through, you see a lot. 0311, original iron that you all designed. Yep. You're now into Gen 7.
Still our name. Yeah.
Still your name. You're into Gen 7.
Yeah.
Those are your player irons. And if you notice, there is an iron that's listed under Game Improvement.
Sure.
Called Black Ops.
Black Ops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I gotta first and foremost, why break it out as a different iron outside of the 0311 category? Why was that so important to kind of give Black Ops its own platform?
Jonathan, have you seen the club?
I have seen it. Yes.
Have you hit it?
So here's the thing. I haven't hit it yet because I'm a guy who's traditionally played, kind of middle of the road, better player irons. And so there's that part of me that's like, if I hit something that's a game improvement, I'm either going to love it and I'm going to want to change.
Yes.
And I'm terrified of like totally retooling the bag, but I have seen it in person.
Yeah.
Really good looking iron. But again, that was my first thought was why isn't it part of the 0311? Why isn't it just 0311 Black Ops? Like, why did it kind of get, like I said, its own platform?
And again, I'm not a marketing person, so there's a lot in a name. And with our Black Ops wood line, we're doing very well with that. And we considered not doing Gen 7 and calling it maybe Black Ops, but there's I guess there's so much value in all the Gen series that we've done so far. We decided to keep going, but we did want to create an iron with the Black Ops name, and we wanted it to be probably an iron that would fit the biggest segment of the marketplace, right? So the game improving category is the biggest segment. Everybody needs some forgiveness out there. So we decided to delve into that. And this was one where we didn't really want to bring the club in at the highest cost, right? So we wanted something that everybody can afford. It's game improvement. It's going to help you. It's going to look good, feel good. It's going to have our technology in it. Now, Bob absolutely loves the Black Ops. He goes, I'm playing these things, brother. He goes, they are so good. It's a different look.
Yeah.
So the Black Ops relative to Gen 7, it's a much thicker looking top rail. It's a wider sole. It's a bigger looking head. But it's one of those things about the size of club heads, when you get used to it, it becomes kind of normal. So anyway, we were chatting, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago, and he said, you need to get a set of Black Ops and go out and play them. And I'm like, all right, so John, they go far. Like relative to the clubs that I have been using.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's the new Black Ops Iron Challenge.
Yeah.
That just came out. I mean, you're not a marketing guy, but I mean this is basically PXG just saying bring it to every other manufacturer out there. And if you basically saying like we're the longest and we're gonna make that claim, and if you can't
can't back it up,
it's gonna cost you. So what is I think the challenge is you've got to
when you bring your clubs in.
Yep, you bring them in. Yeah.
Okay. It's distance and forgiveness.
Okay.
So if we win on either one of those categories, right, like dispersion pattern or long, then we win. If we don't, we're going to pay you $100. Hello?
Yeah.
So you got to be pretty confident in your product at that point. Now,
do you know what the win rate was for the driver? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, we were like 90. I want to say, I think it was 93%.
98%. 98% win rate with the Black Ops driver. So this is not a new challenge, but again, this is a new challenge for the irons. You've done it before with the driver, now with the irons. But yeah, you're staking that claim that you're not only going to be longer than everybody out there, but also more forgiving. Because again, that segment is not hitting it out of the middle of the club face. You got to make something that's a generous sweet spot for them so they can hit it all over and still get similar distances.
It's a generous sweet spot. So I did go out and play a round of golf with the Black Ops. And to your point, I was like, wow, do I want to start using these? They go so far. Oh my gosh. I did go up and play in Payson with these clubs. So my normal 8-iron down here at Phoenix, I'm hitting about 150 to 155 yards.
Yeah.
Well, it goes a little further up in Payson, but I was hitting my 8-iron up there like 170 yards. I was like, wait a minute. It was like, it was crazy. And Brad, on this one par 3, we had 210 to the pin. I was trying to hit my 5-iron there. I could not quite get it all the way to the hole. Brad hit a 5-iron out of the middle of the face. We paced off. It flew 240 yards. He goes, these things are ridiculous. So, and Bob told me this. He goes, listen, there are missiles. And he is right. These things go. So fun.
What is it about those irons though that because people are going to be listening to this podcast going, man, I should try those. But what's the secret sauce here for?
So the deal is, and the secret sauce with our technology is this: we have an extremely thin face. Okay, And we use different polymers behind the face to kind of, store energy. So when you have a thin face on the impact of that golf ball, the face is going to flex slightly. So the flexing of the face is just like a spring, right? So you're loading the spring, but then that polymer behind it is also being compressed. So the polymers are of the utmost importance. You need something that's extremely resilient.
Yep.
And the resilience is this. People can probably relate to this. If you took a super ball and you just held it head high and dropped it on the cement floor, it bounces almost as high as where it started, right? Because it stores energy so well and rebounds back to its original spot or very close to it. So the search for those polymers is virtually everything as far as our technology is concerned. Because we want the face to flex, it stores energy, the polymer stores energy, it releases, and that's why we pretty much have the fastest ball speeds of any golf club out in the marketplace. So, that's where your distance is going to come from. Yeah. Now, the other thing about that technology that's very interesting is when that face flexes and releases, it launches the ball higher. If you just took a solid face club, same loft, and you used our technology, there's about a 2-degree difference in launch angle, which for anybody playing golf, I'm sorry, with irons, the most important thing you're going to do is get it in the air.
Yep.
So once you see that ball in the air, it starts to really help with your confidence and let your swing perform the way it can perform rather than you going, it's kind of a bad lie. Is this going to get up in the air? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So we have some really cool technology.
For golfers out there that might be curious, like where does this fall Black Ops on like the handicap scale? If you were to say, if you're a golfer that falls in between like this handicap range, this is a great iron to go out and test.
It's extremely forgiving, very nice high MOIs, which means it's, a high moment of inertia. It's resistant to twisting on off-center hits. So I'm going to say virtually any skill level could use this. In fact, like I said, I played it for a round, and it's a little big looking for my personal taste, but I could game those in a New York second. I'd have to get used to the distance that they now go, but I could definitely play it. Now, if you're asking to categorize a handicap range, anywhere from 36 down to scratch, anybody can use them. Now, that's different when you start talking blade irons. Now you're going, you better be a plus handicap to probably a 3 or 4. And once you get beyond that, you'd probably move up to a little more forgiveness.
Yeah. So somebody that maybe struggles with consistent impact on the face, and nowadays, especially as golfers get older, one of the things, as you mentioned, they struggle with being able to launch the ball in the air. So this could be a great option for somebody like that, losing speed.
Yep.
As you get older, and now you can regain that speed, but also regain that launch as well.
100%. And the other thing that when we start hitting shots, John, and you know all this stuff because you work with Gene Parente and you do all the robotic testing. We do all we've got 2 of his robots, so we do all the testing. We know exactly what's happening. But with our technology, when a golf ball hits the face flexes slightly. Imagine if you hit the ball out on the toe. Right? So if you hit the ball on the toe, the face wants to move open with an iron. Okay, with an iron, you don't get quite as much gearing effect as you do with a driver. So it doesn't necessarily want to come back. But with our technology, as the face flexes and you hit on the toe, the toe is actually pointing slightly left of target, but as the face rotates open, it's pointing at the target. So the dispersion pattern on off-center hits with our clubs is so tight, it's almost unbelievable. It's just toe hits back to center, heel hits back to center. Obviously, center hits right down the middle. So very, very forgiving. And that's one of the benefits of the technology that we use, with that hollow body product, and we use these polymers behind it.
And that's one of the things that I'm constantly impressed about when it comes to PXG's equipment is, you see Bob on television in the commercials talking about, how sweet these irons feel and, how long they are. He sounds like a caricature. I gotta be honest. Like when you see him in those commercials, you're like, man, this guy, is he selling me a bunch of magic beans? And I will tell you, when we put those irons on the robot, to your point about consistency, some of the most consistent irons that we've seen on the Golf Laboratories swing robot. They're long, but man, they are really consistent. And that's, I mean, we're testing heel and toe misses too. And I mean, they're right up there at the top, if not at the top.
Yeah.
In terms of consistency.
100%. And that's what we shoot for, you know. And some people ask me this question all the time. They go, well, when you start a new product, what are you trying to do? Well, we're trying to prove distance, dispersion, feel, and appearance. Other than that, what else is there?
Yeah.
Right. So we work on every one of those features with a new product launch. And hopefully we hit on all cylinders, you know, with a new launch. And I think we really did it with the Gen 7, and the Black Ops especially is just, it's phenomenal. And the price that it's living at relative to other things in the marketplace is just phenomenal, you know.
The direct-to-consumer approach, I would imagine, certainly makes that a possibility where you can make this game-changing technology with a lot of materials that are expensive and a lot of design processes that are not cheap. But to be able to do it in a smart and efficient way that, you know, brings it back to the consumer so that they can get good equipment and they don't have to break the bank for it.
Well, yes, 100%. And, you know, our distribution model is a little different than every other OEM out there in the marketplace. So we have a few partners, you know, like we deal with Cool Clubs, and Club Champion sells our stuff, you know, from some of the high-end fitters that are out there. But
you got your stores now all over the place.
We have like 28 stores. You know, now
it's crazy.
That's great, you know, but it's still a limited reach, you know. So we sell a lot of product online. If you can't get into the store, you know, we do have fitting hubs that people can go visit. That's not really, you know, it's not a store. It doesn't have all the amenities that the store has, but from the fitting standpoint, they have all the equipment there to make sure that you're fit properly. So we have pretty good distribution, but it, you know, could it be bigger? If it was bigger, it would be bigger, you know. So we're growing, and we're trying to do it.
You're busy enough.
As smartly as we can, you know. Sometimes you grow too fast, too quickly, and too big. It's not as good as what it could be. So we're trying to do it the way it should be done.
Last question for you. Where, and I try to ask this to all the engineers and designers that I have on the podcast, but where do you see iron technology going? It seems like every time that I think that we've reached a ceiling for tech, distance, forgiveness, there's something else that's coming. PXG seems to be at the forefront of a lot of those changes, but where do you see iron technology going in, like, just say like the next 10 years?
Great question. And it's funny that you asked that, because every time we are done with a gen, we kind of, Brad and I look at each other and go, man, what are we going to do now? And Bob he's amazing with this. He goes, something's going to bubble up. You know, so you start delving in and exploring, is there new manufacturing techniques? Are there new alloys out there? Any new polymers? I'm going to tell you right now, the Gen 7 might be the fastest iron ever off the face. And I don't know that it'll ever be able to be faster, because we've reached the limit of USGA. Okay, so the COR on those irons are at the max limit. So getting faster is going to be, I don't know about it. We could probably make it faster. They just won't be conforming.
Yeah.
So we're there. So you know, from this standpoint and going forward, it's going to be all about, you know, forgiveness. Can I hit it all over the face and still achieve the same distance?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be all about forgiveness. It's going to be about, you know, fitting of the club head. You know, I mean, who knows where it's going to go, John? At this point, I have, and I can't share with you, but I have.
I know. I was trying to get
that I'm already working on. Our IP guys are on it, and two really cool concepts.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be good. It's gonna change from where we are right now.
Yep.
But we're always striving to get better in every possible way.
Nico, this was so much fun. Thanks for hopping on with Fully Equipped.
Yeah, nice to be with you, John. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And that'll do it for episode 256 of Fully Equipped. As always, if you want that gear goodness, check us out on our social channels. We are at Fully Equipped Golf on YouTube. I try to plug the YouTube at the beginning of the episode. I do a terrible job. I do a terrible job. Ask my wife. I do a terrible job at a lot of things. But please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to keep trying to release more fun content as the year goes on, especially with all this new product coming out. We're also at Fully Equipped Golf on Instagram and at Fully_Equipped on Twitter. Thanks as always for listening. See you next week.